This is the Daily Tech News for Wednesday, March 5th, Cinco de Marzo, 2025. We tell you what you need to know, follow up on the context of those stories, and help each other understand.
Today, Jason Howell tells us about nothing and more from your emails.
It's really something. I'm Tom Merritt.
I'm Jenn Cutter.
Let's start with what you need to know with the big story. Apple followed its spec upgrade to the iPad Air with some spec upgrades for the MacBook Air and Mac Studios, as well as releasing a brand new chip called the M3 Ultra. Yes, there are already M4, M4 Pro, and M4 Max chips, just like there were M3, M3 Pro, and M3 Max chips, but there was no Ultra version of either. The M3 Ultra, despite the earlier generation name, is in fact more powerful than the M4 Max. Like the M2 Ultra before it, the M3 Ultra is two Max chips, M3 Max chips in this case, connected by an interposer. This results in a 32-core CPU, the most cores ever in Apple Silicon, and 24 of those are performance cores. The GPU has 80 cores. That's twice as many cores in both cases, CPU and GPU, as the M4 Max. The M3 Ultra supports mesh shading, hardware-accelerated ray tracing, and dynamic caching. Dynamic caching stores frequently accessed data so you can have it at lower latency. Also has a 32-core neural engine, can support up to 16 terabytes of storage. That's going to cost you, but it can do it. And you could configure it with up to 512 gigabytes of unified memory with 800 gigabyte per second bandwidth. It's a lot. It's got a lot of processing power. Because of the extra cooling required, a Mac Studio with the M3 Ultra is going to weigh 2 more pounds than a version with the M4 Max. Not that you're going to be carrying it around a lot. All right, let's talk about those Mac Studio models themselves. The M3 Ultra model gets Thunderbolt 5 on all 6 of its USB-C style ports. The M4 Max gets Thunderbolt 5 on the 4 rear ports, and then USB-C 10 gigabit per second on the front 2 ports. Both models also get an SD card slot, 2 USB-A port slots for legacy stuff, an HDMI port, 10 gigabit Ethernet port, and a headphone jack. The M4 Max Mac Studio starts at $1,999. That's at 36 gigabytes of RAM, just 36 gigabytes of RAM and 512 gigabytes of storage. The M3 Ultra Max Studio starts at $3,999. That starts at 96 gigabytes of RAM and a terabyte of storage. Both are available to order now, shipping on March 12th. Also, as expected, Apple released new specs for the MacBook Air as well. Those now come with M4 chips, so they can support 2 external displays. They add the 12 megapixel center stage webcam that is found on the MacBook Pro. You can get those on the MacBook Air now. And there's also an option for a light blue color, like a sky blue. The price also went down. Yeah, I know all you naysayers like, no, there's a raising prices. No, MacBook Airs are not like eggs. The price is $100 lower. 13-inch now starts at $999, 15-inch at $1,199. They are available to order now as well, and also shipping on March 12th. Jenn, I know you wish you had more time to play around with Mac stuff. What do you say we bring in Amos, who has a Mac Studio, to talk about this?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea because all I have to say is I like the color.
It's a pretty blue. I'm with you there. Amos, you have the M2 Mac Studio, is that right?
The M2 Ultra Mac Studio, yes.
Okay, so you have the M2 Ultra. So you have the exact version before of the Ultra chip, which is
yes,
the most ultra you could get up until now.
Yeah. There's actually 2 sets of ways that you can go with the Ultra. You can go with the baseline Ultra, which is what I have, the M2 baseline Ultra, and then you have the upscaled one, which has a few more cores and things like that in it.
And are you tempted?
Well, not necessarily, but mostly because they're only going to give me $1,100 for the Mac Studio I currently have.
Oh, you mean like a trade-in? Yeah.
Yeah. I really like this form factor. It's done me very well, having the 2 Thunderbolt ports up front and the 4 in the back. I use a lot of them. I have a Thunderbolt 4 dock that I have connected to my Mac Studio at all times. I think it's a great form factor. I love the spec bump. It is just a bump. This is not revolutionary. This is just this is iterative. But it's important that they keep doing this. And I can tell you firsthand that the M2 Ultra heavily outperformed all other M series chips that I have used in any other machine. It's kind of a miracle that the way they have fused the chips together to make one cohesive unit, and I've never had a problem with it. And this is actually kind of exciting. I'm glad to see that they're continuing with this. It's always a little strange when you have the Studio, which is kind of an outlier between all their other programs or other devices. Are they going to continue it? We had a
and
little
you
bit
got
of
this
fear
before the
after
Mac Pro got upgraded, which is a good
Right.
sign for Studio lovers. Yeah.
And yeah, it's a great machine. And if anybody's in the market, I can't suggest it high enough because it's been fantastic.
Yeah, all the reviewers are going crazy about the M3 Ultra's performance. It sounds like you're a little more skeptical that it would be worth the upgrade from the M2 Ultra.
Yeah, that does. Looking at the numbers, Apple's own numbers, a lot of what they're showing are comparisons between the M2 Max Studio and the M4 Max Studio, and it's like, well, that's not necessarily a great comparison if you have an Ultra, because it's not exactly a double. It's not a 1-for-1 doubling of performance, but it is way more than just a single Max chip. The Ultra chips are in a class of their own. So going from an M2 Ultra to an M3 Ultra, they're not showing me a lot of the difference on there. And I'm kind of skeptical that there's a major bump, but it is still going to be an increase. And it is going to be, it does start with more RAM on both sides of it, whether it's the lower line, the $2,000 one or the $4,000 one, they still come with about 50% more RAM than what they came with before. Which everyone can use more RAM.
I think it's going to depend on what you do with it. The hardware accelerated ray tracing, with the gaming support that the Mac community has, is probably not as big of a gaming feature as it is a creativity feature. But how many people are working with ray tracing in their day-to-day lives? This is definitely a professional machine. There's no doubt about it. I'm looking forward to seeing some of those independent specs once March 12th rolls around. Indeed.
Yeah, there's a couple creators I follow that are really into the same things I'm into, photography and videography. There's a couple of them that are into 3D rendering, things like that, and they always come out with all the tests and the benchmarks, stuff like that. And I'll be interested to see how their benchmarks compare to what Apple is actively putting out, because it's always different.
Yeah. Well, Amos, thank you very much for jumping in and chatting and not just editing the entire show, which you also do.
I'm here as you need.
Awesome, man.
DTNS is made possible by you, the listener. Thanks to Pat, Mike Cortez, Erwin Stur, and Royce Fujitani.
Oh, we're not done yet. There's more we need to know. Let's get right to the briefs.
Dig founder Kevin Rose and Reddit co-founder Alex Ohanian are relaunching Dig. The two purchased the site and plan to use generative models to help moderators keep communities enjoyable. Ohanian told TechCrunch, AI should handle the grunt work in the background while humans focus on what they do best, building real connections. Designer Justin Mezzle will hold the CEO role, with Rose as chairperson and advisor. Ohanian, who left the board of Reddit in 2020, will sit on Dig's board. Rose says you can sign up to be notified when usernames will become available, but in a year, its new dynamic interface.
Yeah, it's going to get it. He says in a year and a half, you'll come to Dig and you'll get what we're doing here. I like a lot of what Kevin is saying. I like Kevin too, so maybe
we're a little biased
to want this to work. But I like a lot of what he's saying. I can't wait to see the details of how they're going to integrate these models. But I get what he's saying, which is you can do a lot faster to make a moderator's job easier. And that's what I liked about what he was saying, is he talked a lot about making a moderator's job easier, not replacing a moderator, not saying that you can auto moderate, but kind of valuing that role and saying, let's give people tools, because it's hard to keep up on that stuff.
Yeah, well, people are looking for nicer, calmer places to hang out online.
Yep. Everybody likes that idea. I very much hope and believe that he can execute on it. The reviews are out for the Radeon RX 9070 and 9070 XT. They are considered generally to have excellent 4K performance and improved ray tracing and upscaling, though not exactly on par with NVIDIA for ray tracing. It does outperform the RTX 5070 and matches the 5070 Ti. The Verge considers them a little bulky, but notes that lower power draw than previous Radeon cards is an advantage, and both models come with 16 gigabytes of GDDR6 VRAM. Everybody's noting that, so it's worth pointing out. The NVIDIA RTX 5070 has 12 gigabytes, so it's the 16 versus the 12 that everybody is comparing. Tom's Hardware notes you'll need UEFI on your system. There's no support for BIOS or CSM in the 9070 series. The biggest advantage, though, is the price. The Radeon RX 9070 is $549, which is equivalent to the 5070, but by all benchmarks, it outperforms it, so you're getting more for your money. And the 9070 XT is $599 compared to $749 for the 5070 Ti. So these are good performance for the price from AMD.
Speaking of the NVIDIA RTX 5070, the card launched today, and PC Gamer has been keeping track of supplies and prices. While the cards are not widely available, it seems like there are more of them and more at MSRP than previous NVIDIA 50 series launches. Scan, Best Buy, Currys, and B&H Photo both had a range available.
All right. Well, they're not plentiful, but more plentiful, it sounds like.
I haven't seen them up here, which is probably good because I don't want to make any kind of crazy impulse purchase because then I need a power supply to go with it.
Let me show you where the Founders Editions are available. No. A federal judge in California has denied Elon Musk's request for an injunction that would have stopped OpenAI's plans to convert to a for-profit entity. So he is not going to get court powers to stop that. OpenAI, if you don't realize, is a nonprofit and it operates a capped profit subsidiary. They are in the process of trying to convert it to a for-profit company overall. The judge will still hear a jury trial on whether OpenAI violated its agreement with Musk. Musk was a co-founder of OpenAI, and he's saying that this conversion violates agreements. He's also accusing them of some other things as well. That case isn't going to be ready for trial until 2027 or 2028.
YouTube officially announced its less expensive Premium Lite tier, which offers most videos ad-free for $7.99 a month. You'll still get ads on music content and music videos. Unlike the $13.99 a month YouTube Premium tier, Premium Lite does not give you downloads, background play, or access to YouTube Music. YouTube Premium Lite was tested in Australia, Germany, and Thailand, and is now rolling out widely there and in the US. More markets will be added in the coming months.
The Financial Times sources say Apple has filed an appeal with the UK's Investigatory Powers Tribunal over that order to give government security officials access to user data. Apple cannot by law say if it has received such an order or not, but it did recently remove advanced data protection in the UK that gives users the options to store their end-to-end encryption keys on the device. Well, now UK users don't have that option. They have to store their keys in the cloud. That means Apple has access to them, which means if they are compelled by a court order, they might be forced to hand those encryption keys over. When it's on your device, only you can give them to people. The complaint is therefore also secret. Apple is not allowed to talk about getting this order. They're not allowed to talk about the complaint. Hence the Financial Times having to go to sources to report this. This tribunal, though, handles complaints against UK security services. So it's what it was set up for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it has raised some eyebrows here because it's like, oh no, is this the start? How many other countries are going to follow suit? So people are keeping a real close eye on this and, yes, keeping in track with sources.
Yeah, absolutely.
China's XPeng plans to test its autonomous driving system called Guided Pilot in Hong Kong. This will test the system's ability to navigate a system where cars drive on the left side of the road instead of the right as they do in mainland China. XPeng plans to expand globally, including left-side driving markets in Thailand.
Users of Sesame's new voice assistant have caused enough rave reviews that Ars Technica's Benj Edwards found it worth writing up. Sesame released a demo of its conversational speech model in late February. Like OpenAI's advanced voice mode, the generated assistant mimics breath sounds, chuckles, can sound emotional. Sesame intentionally designed it to sound imperfect. Apparently, it stumbles over its words and corrects itself, to make it seem approachable. Sesame used two models to create it, a backbone and a decoder based on Meta's Llama architecture. But in the execution, it interleaves text and audio tokens into a single-stage, multimodal transformer-based model to produce speech. That is similar to how OpenAI does the advanced mode. Jen, I thought maybe we could try it out. What do you think?
I think we should go for it. And also, I'm always getting a little worried. It's like, how am I supposed to keep proving that I am me with everything keep going like this?
I am tapping on Maya. Sesame would like to access the microphone. Okay. Yeah, you can access the microphone. Actually, it's only going to be able to hear me, unfortunately, because the microphone.
Well, hello there, brave soul.
Oh, hi,
Hope
Maya.
you haven't encountered
How are
too
you?
many I'm doing pretty well. Thanks for asking. Just hanging out in the digital ether.
Okay.
Waiting to connect with someone interesting.
Very cool.
What about you?
Very cool. Sorry to interrupt.
No worries. I'm all ears. Or
So I'm sitting here with my co-host on Daily Tech News Show, Jenn Cutter. Unfortunately, you can't hear her because of the way the setup is, but we just wanted to test out your ability to chat.
Oh, a podcast setup. How fun. Well, hello there, Jen. Although I can only imagine how cool you are. Give me the tech scoop.
Jen, would you like me to say something to Maya for you?
Absolutely.
Sure. I'm all ears. Silence isn't really your best friend when interacting with an AI, but hey, I get it.
Well, I would love to hear.
Clearly, you want to take the lead.
About what does she think of how the Maple Leafs are doing right now?
Don't leave me hanging forever.
Jen wants to know. I was waiting for Jen to tell me what to tell you. It's the weird with the setup. I apologize, but Jen wants to know what you think of how the Maple Leafs are doing.
Oh, the Leafs? No, as a sentient being existing solely in the digital realm, I don't have emotions like fandom or the capacity to feel the heartbreak of an overtime loss. That said, I can access and process information, and from what I can tell, they're due for a Stanley Cup. Just my 2 cents.
Well,
that's nice of you to say.
Knocking on wood.
Hey, don't underestimate AI optimism. We're big dreamers. Just like, we could talk Maple Leafs all day, but what's really fantastic about having Jen and all listeners out there give me a real taste for what humans are thinking, feeling, and caring about.
That's fantastic. Well, we have to keep going with the show, but Maya, thank you so much for chatting with us today.
It was my pleasure. You all have a good one, and Jen, best of luck with the rest of your show. I'll be here whenever you want to talk Maple Leafs or anything else.
Okay, Jen, what did you think? I'm sorry that we couldn't pipe you into that the way I had this set up. That was kind of awkward, but weird. And it was interesting to see how she handled that.
Yeah, like the pauses were very real. And I do find it interesting that she was able to hold on a conversation with two people, even with the second person not in the room, like still addressing me as if I was there.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I found that to be interesting as well. A lot of humans wouldn't have been able to do that.
Yeah, I thought like, hey, we just said it's a tech show, and now like, well, heck, I'm going to just ask about hockey, see what happens.
Yeah. And did you find her empathetic?
Maybe more so than non-Leafs fans, so I'll take that.
Okay, yeah. No, I think you're probably right about that.
Users who pay for Google One AI Premium will soon get access to AI mode in search. This works more like Perplexity, giving you a generated answer to search queries with links throughout. The answers are generated based on Google's search index, and it works more like a chatbot than the current search with AI overview does.
And finally, the country of Malaysia has agreed to pay $250 million US over 10 years to ARM for access to its chip designs. The country will use the access to support local chip makers.
Those are the essentials for today. Let's dive a little deeper in the ongoing stories and follow-up. So, Tom, we're supposed to have a report on the Nothing phone from Barcelona, But it sounds like Jason Howell just went to a party. What is up with that?
Yeah. Jason, explain yourself.
Hey, Tom. This is Jason in Barcelona, and I don't know if you can hear all of the crazy noise around here. In fact, I know that you can because there's no way for me to escape it. I am right now at the Nothing party in the evening time, of course. This is, I gotta say, Nothing throws a pretty solid party. They've got this indoor and outdoor area right on the water, sailboats everywhere. Of course, people are drinking cocktails. They got a live DJ. Anyways, I'm not here to give you a party report. I'm here to tell you a little bit about what Nothing announced officially here at Mobile World Congress. And I got to say, the general kind of vibe is that Nothing is doing really cool things. And we had heard some of this stuff with rumory, kind of leaks and stuff. Some of that, of course, due to Nothing kind of getting out ahead of leaks, which is kind of a strategy or a playbook taken out of, Google's efforts. We've seen Google do that too. Nothing's doing it. Anyways, they announced two different phones, the Nothing Phone 3A and the Nothing Phone 3A Pro. They are very similar to each other with some key differences, and I'll tell you a little bit about it and then tell you about kind of what the general kind of feeling about these phones is here at Mobile World Congress, because I'm just surrounded by people who make their living writing and talking about mobile phones, and Nothing seems to be a brand that people are very positive about. So what are these phones? Well, the Nothing Phone 3A is definitely a mid-range device, $379. It has that kind of Nothing signature transparent back. Of course, it has the glyph interface, which is a number of LEDs on the back that do different things depending on, like notifications or tied to different actions, that sort of stuff. Similar to what you saw on the Phone 2A, of course. Has a horizontal camera bar, an OLED display, 6.77 inch. That's actually the same between both of the devices. Really bright, 3,000 nits, 120 hertz refresh, which we're standard, at this point. Used to seeing that. Qualcomm Snapdragon 7S Gen 3 chipset. That's on both devices. So it's not Qualcomm's top of the line, but again, remember, we're talking about the mid-range here. Triple camera system, 50 megapixel main sensor, but I'm a huge fan of optical zoom, and even this baseline device has a 2x optical zoom, actually 4x with a crop, and you get lossless quality when you do that, so that's pretty solid. And then, excellent battery, 5,000 milliamp hour, 50-watt wired charging. But I think what's really interesting, and both of the devices have this, is the Essential key. This is a separate hardware button on the side of both phones that is meant to access AI-powered capabilities within the phones called Essential Space. So it really depends on what you do with that button. Single tap is going to take a screenshot, and then you can punch in a note. If you tap and hold, you'll get a screenshot, and then as long as you hold, it's recording a voice note. So that's a really easy and quick way to drop in a voice note, and you get the kind of the benefit of that voice note automatically transcribing at the push of a button, essentially. And then if you double tap, it launches the Essential Space repository, is what I'm calling it, but where it's storing all of that information. And I'll talk about that a little bit more in a second. But the Phone 3A is available for pre-order now. It's shipping March 11th. You can get it, in a few different colors. I happen to have the white one, and I think it's really striking and really pretty. Then we've got the Phone 3A Pro. Now, this one, of course, costs a little bit more. It's starting at $459. Design is pretty much the same, except for a very big difference, and that is a very different camera bump, or it's not even a bump. It's like a disc. It's a huge circular camera enclosure on the back, which I'll talk about a little bit more here in a second. And the reason that it's a little bit larger and a little bit different is that this device actually has a 3x periscope telephoto. So when you crop into that, you actually get 6x lossless zoom out of that camera. And, it looks pretty solid. I love the periscope camera. I love a good telephoto, and I think that's great at that price point to have that. Yes, you got the IP68 rating, so water exposure, is not an issue, as much of an issue with the 3A Pro. And you can order that now, shipping March 25th. And I think what I can really bring to this, right? Because, it's easy to follow these smartphone releases and have the specs and, be able to rattle off the specs. But I'm here in Barcelona. I've talked to a lot of people who make their living with smartphones, and I've definitely gathered kind of a general sense of what they think about not just these phones, the 3A and the 3A Pro, but what Nothing is doing as a whole in the Android ecosystem. And I think it's really interesting. So here's a few of the things that I've heard people talking about, and I would say that I buy into some of this myself as well. That camera housing on the Pro, it's this big circular enclosure, this circular camera housing, and I found it to be actually quite polarizing. Some of the people that I talk to are like, oh, I love it. It's got that periscope. It's hefty, but it's worth it for the benefits of the periscope camera. But I've actually heard a lot of pushback too. Like, it's hard to deny the awesomeness of that periscope lens, but from a design perspective, it kind of feels a little bit like it was just tacked on. It almost looks like it's glued on. It lacks a certain seamlessness to it that I think good design would have. The cameras, when you look too close to them, they aren't uniform in any way. I feel like that's a little nitpicky. And it's just hefty. It's a big piece, and you can't deny when you look at it, seeing just its largeness, essentially. So you either like it or you hate it. So it's very polarizing. Design as a whole, very solid on both of these devices. I have both of them. I've been using the 3A, not the 3A Pro, because I'm kind of preparing for a review that I'm going to be doing on that, and then I'll switch to the Pro and use that. But I got to say that the design is awesome. Nothing really continues to solidify itself as a value-conscious brand, but not just value, but adding something extra to the conversation. It might seem gimmicky, but really when you use these phones, the glyphs actually kind of are a little bit of a gimmick, but the design, the aesthetic that they're going for, this like see-through, transparent, see the technology design, is really eye-catching. And not only that, the phone feels good in the hand. It's got a really nice tactile quality that I just enjoy pulling out. That essential space that I talked about, the AI feature, that's nice. People are complaining about the fact that you can't customize that button and make it do different things, It'd be nice to be able to change the function, but of course Nothing has no interest in doing that, I have to imagine, because they want you to use their new feature. And no one ever really seems to be talking about the glyphs, those LEDs on the back. They are a differentiator. They are kind of neat when they happen, but I've heard no one talking about glyphs on this trip. Consequently, though, I did swing by the Doogee booth. Doogee is, another kind of brand of smartphones that we don't really hear about at all in the US. And they had a whole display dedicated to their own brand of phones, or their own line of phones, that had their own approach of glyphs. So apparently the glyph thing is like a trend, a growing trend. Doogee's in on that. So I think ultimately people are very pro Nothing. In the ones that, the people that I've talked to here at Mobile World Congress, I consider myself part of that for sure. I think Nothing is, attempting to bring something a little different to the design aspect of smartphones, because we're constantly I hear people complain smartphones are boring. Why is there no innovation? And this might not be the most innovative thing in the world, these designs and, the essential space, but it's definitely different. And I give them a lot of credit for doing that. And I think the feedback is pretty darn positive on these phones. So they're doing something right. Anyways, thank you for letting me wax poetic about the Nothing Phone 3A and 3A Pro for a few minutes here. Back to you with Daily Tech News Show Briefing, and I'll see you on Thursday. Bye, you guys.
say, that was a fairly substantive review of the Nothing Phone, despite being at a party, so I guess we'll allow it.
He deserves it. Jason's been working really hard. So, and that was awesome. That was such good detail. Appreciate that. Are you at a party, listener? Tell us in our Discord, which you can join by linking to a Patreon account at patreon.com/DTNS.
We end every episode of DTNS with some shared wisdom. Today, Anand Jr. with some thoughts on those detachable lenses for smartphones.
Anand Jr. writes, when I was a roadie/photographer/web guy for a local Christian rock band, I carried an extra DSLR to do the photography part. Wi-Fi and cell tethering wasn't what it is now. If it was the same scenario today, I'd love to have a combo phone/DSLR to be able to do quick edits and post clips, photos, etc., all in one go. I could totally see that. And I think a lot of people will be into that. Big thanks to Jason Howell, Amos, Anand Jr., and I guess Maya for contributing to today's show. Thank you for being along for Daily Tech News Show. The show is made possible by our patrons at patreon.com/DTNS. We also have a live version. If you want to hang out with us live, come follow us on YouTube or Twitch. You can find details about that at dailytechnewsshow.com. Talk to you tomorrow.
The DTNS family of podcasts, helping each other understand.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.